Bass in your face.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses common sense. For that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I also have another channel called Latina Diaspora where I discuss issues pertaining to Latinos in the United States. The link to that channel is in the description. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, the subscriber mode has been enabled. Meaning, if you're not a subscriber and wish to enter a comment in the chat, you will need to subscribe to the channel. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel. Whether you've been a supporter from the very beginning or just recently joined as late as today, I really appreciate your love and continued support. Also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow my social media, as well as those who allow me to enter into your devices, and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask that you please subscribe, like, and set the bell notifications to all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So tonight's episode, we're having another episode of open discussion. Now, for the benefit of those of you who do not know what happens, what I would do is I would share my views regarding several topics. And of course, you, the audience, will have an opportunity to express your views in the chat. Okay. Also, if there's anything that you want me to talk about, I will do my best to comply. Now, if it's something that I do not have a great deal of knowledge, I'll be transparent and state. The one thing I will not talk about is regarding the situation regarding what's going on in Israel with the Israeli government and with their action confrontation with Hamas. The reason why I won't discuss anything about those topics because people don't know how to discuss topics, without being emotional and being intellectual. Okay. Because if we're going to condemn actions regarding the Israeli government, we must be intellectual. Condemn those of Hamas. If we're going to be intellectually honest, we must condemn all forms of violence. Condemning violence against by one group and not calling out the actions of the other is being extremely hypocritical in my book. Now, before we get into the topics, let me just state that next week's schedule is going to be Monday night, Tuesday night, definitely Friday. I will be live on my main channel. As far as my other channel, most likely be Thursday. Okay. So let's begin with the first thing. The first thing, of course, is the situation with Jimmy Kimmel. Okay. Now, as I stated previously, Disney, who happens to own NBC, ABC, had suspended Jimmy Kimmel, in essence, basically firing him because of comments he had made regarding Donald Trump and his supporters. Okay. Now, as a consequences of Disney pursuing that course of action, what was the consequences? That they had lost literally billions of dollars through subscriptions to Disney Plus, through entrance to theme parks in Disney World and in Disneyland and in other ventures. Now, it is my understanding that either he's back alive or he will be alive soon. Okay. What what certain people need to bear in mind is this: if you don't like what someone is saying, if you don't like what someone's expressing, the easiest thing to do is not to listen. Okay, and particularly here in this platform, which is called YouTube, where there are literally hundreds of thousands of content creators. Okay, all entering in different venues, all entering different areas. Okay, all discussing different topics. I mean, you can basically do a search and you can find a channel that talks about almost anything. Okay. Now, at the same time, we have to bear in mind is that not everyone is going to like our content. There's going to be people that's going to have issues with what we say, and that's perfectly fine. And again, if you truly don't like um, what someone is saying, don't. Okay. Unfortunately, within the culture, like certain politicians, they get upset because what some other people who have a platform say. Now, another thing we have also have to bear in mind that each one of us that has a platform, no matter how big or no matter how small or insignificant it can be, everything we say has consequences. Some of them positive, negative. Okay. So we all need to mind and care about what we say and do. Okay. And we saw a perfect example of someone being deleted simply because someone disagreed with what he said, what he believes. Now, of course, like I said before, I never heard him speak. I really don't know. My only opinion is that I'm sorry that he was deleted. Um, Most sorry for what his wife and his children have to go through because they're being go through life without their father and their spouse. But it does serve as we have to be very careful of what we say or what we do. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is it's every now and then we get a group of people that say the rapture is going to happen this day. The rapture is going to happen this day. And what happens? The day comes, and guess what? Millions of people have not disappeared. Okay, and there's been I think some mega supporters, or some people actually believe that September the 23rd, 2025, was the day of the rapture. Well, today is September the 25th. and there's been no reports of millions of people disappearing. Now, do I believe that it's going to be a rapture? And the rapture is going to come? Yes, I do as a Christian. But it's going to come in God's time, okay? Because the Bible says that no one knows when He will return. No one, okay? And whenever anyone is said, like, go around saying, well, Jesus is coming back in such and such day, you have to treat with a great deal of skepticism. And in my personal opinion, these people who constantly saying and make an announcement regarding his return and nothing happens. In my opinion, what it does, it weakens the faith of some people, and some people actually don't take seriously the message of the gospel. Okay, the message of the gospel is very simple. The problem is it's human being that loves to complicate things. Okay, and I remember back in 2011 where Harold Camping was making announcements that the rapture was going to come and millions of people will be lifted up and gone to heaven. And what happened is you have people who sold their possessions or gave away their possessions, expecting that the rapture will come. Rapture did not come, and these people who foolishly gave away all they own. Okay, and all throughout the centuries, there have been people that gone back, continue to go back and forth. Okay, well, this day is the day of the rapture. This day is the day of the rapture, and the day comes, and guess what? Nothing happens. Except what happens is people become disappointed, or people become disillusioned regarding faith. So my suggestion is this: whenever anyone says that Jesus is coming back at a certain time, don't believe it. Believe what the Bible says. No one except God who mighty knows of his return. Okay. Well, the next thing I want to talk about, of course, this is the time of the year where football season begins and baseball season ends. Okay. So it's like it's a very interesting time of the year because once one professional season begins and one professional season ends. But that's the cycle of life. There's a beginning and there's an end. Okay. And for all baseball fans uh, whose team is either in the playoffs or entering the playoffs, this is an exciting time because they have expectations, they have hopes that not only their team will do well, but that the team not only go to the World Series, but the team will win the World Series. Okay, which is easier said than done. Okay, because first of all, you have um, 6 teams on each league, 3 wild cards and 3 division winners. Okay, so you have to go through the wild card round, then you have to go through the divisional round, Then you go to the League Championship Series, and then there's the World Series. That means some teams have to engage in 4 series of games in order to win the championship. Not everyone can do that. Okay. A lot of it is skill, and also a lot of it it's luck. And the reality is this: not everyone can perform well in the postseason. Now, I'll give a perfect example. Dave Winfield, who played with the San Diego Padres, New York Yankees, Minnesota Twins, and the Toronto Blue Jays. Okay, so in the 1981 World Series, okay, Dave Winfield did not have a protected World Series. In fact, he only got one base hit in 22 at bats. Okay. Now, sometimes people can rise to the occasion and have a great World Series. Okay. A perfect example is the 1977 World Series when Reggie Jackson actually hit 5 home runs, and actually on the last game he had 3 consecutive home runs on 3 consecutive pitches. Obviously, he had an excellent World Series, and he was the MVP, the most valued player. Reggie Jackson was able to rise to the occasion, and this is not the first time he has risen to the occasion. I mean, he also performed well in the 1973 World Series, 1974 World Series. Okay, unfortunately, he couldn't play in the 1972 World Series because he was injured. Okay, but there's certain players who have a reputation of doing very well in postseason, and then those who do not. And then there are players who actually who are, so-so, but yet they had a magical time. Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. Back in 1978, in the one-game playoff uh, for the Eastern Division of the American League uh, between the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, the Red Sox are leading 2-0 in the top of the 7th inning. Okay. Now here's the irony. Bucky Dent is not known as a person that hit home runs. In fact, I think at that time he only hit 4. So what does he do? He hits a fly ball that just manages to go over the green monster into the screen, and he had a magical moment. Yankees win ahead 3-2. They eventually got 2 more runs before Boston made it exciting, and the Yankees won 5-4. So Bucky Dent is a perfect example of a player that not known for to be um, be a big hitter, but he had his magical moments. Okay, and so the next thing I want to talk about, first of all, um, huge shout out to my supporters. Okay, I said it before, and I'll say it again. Okay. The reason why I managed to do well is thanks to them. Okay. So far in the month of September, I've gained 58 subs. Okay. And there's still 5 days left, which is insane. Okay. And most of it was, I gained through one video, one short, when I actually gained over 50 subs. Okay. Nevertheless, I am humble by the amount of support I have received, and in all fairness, I cannot take all the credit. I have to give the glory to God because He made all things possible. Okay. And just as a reminder, um, anyone that feels, oh, before I forget, let me just state, if I never seen you before, if I never heard from you before, um, I will insist that you come up in the backstage to make sure that you're not going to flash anything um, pornographic, which will lead the people of Blue to take down the string. Once I see that you are actually going to abide by my rules and setting up this platform, then you'll be allowed on the panel. Okay. And then after that, if you wish to come up or not come up, that I leave to your discretion. Now, one thing of course, I am looking forward to is my birthday. Okay. Um, some of you don't know, but my birthday is October the 7th. Okay. Which is 12 days away. Okay. So definitely what I plan to do is a special live on my birthday, celebrating the fact that I'm here. Okay. And no, I'm not doing this, to have an ego. I'm doing this to show my appreciation of the fact that I have lived for almost 63 years by God's love and mercy. Okay. And that's something that and that's something that I do not take for granted. Okay. And especially in light of the fact that unfortunately I have siblings um, that passed away prematurely. Um, the fact that that through God's grace and mercy, um, I have lived for almost 63 years. Okay. Now, one thing, now there's a couple of topics that I'm definitely going to talk about next month. Um, One of them is the issue of domestic violence, okay, because it is a, it is a serious situation um, where people are victims of DV often don't report it because of pain. They feel like it did this on it, and I will discuss it because I want to make a point that um, you know, it is not your fault. No one deserves to be physically assaulted. No one. No one. Um, Also, trying to deal with the issue with children being exploited. Okay. because unfortunately, we're living at a time and age that we do have individuals that exploit children. It's very sad, okay, because what happens is that the children, first of all, they lose their trust in adults, they lose their childhood, and many times um, children suffer of issues of low self-esteem. Ma- Many times they blame themselves for what has happened, and what happens is if that trauma is not treated when they become adults, the consequences they abuse children. So it could be a really nasty cycle. Okay. Now one thing I have to start thinking about, um, whether I will, to continue to go live on Instagram. Um, because one thing I try to do is I try to go live on multiple platforms that people can tune in and hopefully they will enjoy. But if there's a platform where people don't participate, then I need to do something about maybe it's time for me not to use that platform. Now I know that people do lives in TikTok. I really need to learn how that's done. Okay. Now I know some people hate TikTok because to them it's like a cesspool. But one thing we have to bear in mind that every social media platform, it could be used for good purposes and it could be used for bad purposes. Okay. The platform itself is not good or evil. It's how people tend to use it. The same thing applies with YouTube. There are people who use YouTube for constructive means to share knowledge, wisdom, or they bring a positive message. And then you have those who use the, the platform to create problems, to create havoc. Okay. So one thing we have to bear in mind: this platform, like any platform, it's not inherently evil. It's how people use it. Okay. And I chose to use this platform to share knowledge, to exchange opinions, and also as a form of discussion where we can discuss views, and sometimes we can share views but we don't necessarily agree. Okay. One thing that I refuse to do was to treat this platform as an echo chamber. No. Okay. There's more than enough channels out there that treat their platforms as an echo chamber. And I think basically I have had disagreements with every person that appear on this panel. Now, one thing I do know that my friend Denise Gonzalez, There's a lot coming up regarding Charlie Kirk. I believe it's going to be on this Saturday, midnight. Okay, Eastern Standard Time. I'm really looking forward to it. To hear her perspective. But like I said before, um, I don't like to comment about something that I don't know anything about. Okay, because it'll be pure speculation on my part, and it really saddens me when people rejoice in someone's demise. Okay, because what does that? I mean, what does that say? That you have a lot of hatred in your heart, so much that you are actually rejoicing in someone's deletion. Okay, and especially as a Christian, um, it's never a good thing to delight in the demise of a person. Now we can hate the evil acts. Okay, we can be saddened that people use evil acts or say evil things. So we can hate the action, but not the person, because the rain does not fall simply on the good people, but it falls on everybody. The same thing when it comes to the sun. The sun does not just shine on the righteous, it shines on all people. And there's always a possibility, okay, that while that person's alive, they can change their behavior, they can change their conduct. However, they have to accept the fact that they need it, okay, which is called taking accountability for their actions. Okay. Unfortunately, with some people, accountability is like kryptonite, and we've seen it, with people that we deal with. We see people make poor choices regarding the decisions that they make, and instead of taking accountability, what they do is they blame others for the choices that they make. Okay, and at one time or another, all of us have been guilty about that. All of us. I've done it, and I know you have done it, I'm sure. But we can always learn from our mistakes, and that's called maturity, along with accountability. Because I have this saying, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. When you mess up, fess up. In other words, admit you made a poor choice, take accountability, learn from it, and again. Unfortunately, we live in a day when people make the same mistake multiple times. And what is the purest form of insanity? Keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Okay. So it looks like it's gonna be another night. Basically, just me just to do a monologue. It is what it is. But I'm probably going to stay on for another maybe 5 to 10 minutes. One thing um, lately, it's been very busy at my job, working. And, the good thing when you do a lot, when you get busy, it makes the time go quickly. But then again, when you're overly busy, you know, sometimes you have difficulty trying to keep your focus. And sometimes people get upset with the amount of work that you have to do. One thing that has helped me is that I have a day, I have a work day, I have 7 hours to do what I need to do. Okay. Complaining about wasting my time to complain about something does not help. What you do what you can within a given day. And if you have multiple things to do, you prioritize. The things that are extremely important, that are urgent, you take care of that. Those things that are not as urgent or is not as important, you put that aside and you wait for another opportunity. Okay. One thing we have to bear in mind is not every day is going to be extremely busy. There's going to be days that it's going to be activity. And we should learn to appreciate those days, especially when we have days when it seems like it's non-stop activity from the first hour to the last hour. Okay. And plus, um, mm, it helps me to focus on what are my true priorities. So I guess in the way when you're very busy, maybe it's a mixed blessing or a blessing in disguise. I don't know. I do know is that instead of complaining that we don't have time for everything that we need to do, we need to prioritize those things that does need our immediate attention and focus on those things. And those things that do not need our immediate attention, we can get to it when there's time. Okay. Let me just see. My apologies. It says that every now and then I do have to check and um, if anyone's watching on Instagram, just to acknowledge their presence and things of that nature. Now, of course, that used to visit this platform that have not. Now, I'm not going to lie, I do miss their presence, but I'm not bitter. Okay. It just so happens that, you know, there are people that have other responsibilities, there are other things that require the immediate attention. And let's keep it real. Okay. It could be time consuming when you are producing content on a regular basis. Not everyone has the time to devote to create content, whether it be videos or whether it be live. Okay. And of course, the welcome mat is always there for those who wish to hop on and express an opinion or even join me on the panel. So hopefully there'll be more people, you know. But in any case, what I will do is I'll start to wrap this up. Okay. And of course, huge shout out to all of you who week in and week out support my content. And of course, all the glory and honor belongs to God Almighty. So, with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. And of course, the playback gang, do your thing. And you're more than welcome to leave your comments. I do ask you, please, keep them respectable. Because if they're not, they're going to, it is that simple. Okay. Now, tomorrow night, I'm going to be going out on a social event. So, the next time I'll be live will most likely be Monday. Of course, I'll continue to produce shorts. Okay. Lately, I've been doing more like prayer videos and motivational messages because I want to do something a little bit more positive with my platform. And I always try to keep this as wholesome as possible, as productive as possible, and also let God's light shine through me. Okay. And of course, I'm going to close the same way that I always close. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of the mentally and intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by the stupidity and massive insanity. This has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. And of course, whatever you say and do for the glory of God. So that being said, um, take care, stay blessed, and peace.